Good night, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of the Trifactor podcast, where we use our knowledge and our reason to describe our passion, which is football. Tonight we have a special guest on, Mr. Joel Bailey, a prolific guy who is from South Trinidad. We'll get his life and lessons learned and his escapade in football. And before you go any further, we just ask you to like, share, and subscribe. And you can check out all our stuff on the link below on all platforms. Right. Now that we get that all out the way, good night, Joel. How you doing?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, bro. Your brother real big up. He say he was good, but he say you was real good. So we hope to have a great episode on. Something that I think we don't do in Trinidad is we don't spotlight those who have gone before and who has done well. If you look at American sports, they have a detailed history of everybody who has done well, and I think we lacking in that, so we're trying to bridge that gap. So that's basically what the podcast is about.
Yeah. I want to commend you guys because I've been looking at some of the other podcasts that you got other athletes and stuff, and I just want to commend you all and encourage you all to continue on in the way that you're going. I wish you all the success in the future moving forward.
Man. Thanks, bro. Where we could start off tonight is your academy, GDD, New Generation, right?
Generation Next,
right? So that could be the first question. Tell us about your academy, where it's based, and how you maneuvering through the pandemic.
Right. So, well, the academy initially had started when I moved back to Trinidad. I had a couple newborn kids, and I wanted to get them involved in the game and in the sport. And I just thought, what better way than to, do my own thing, the others, right? And I felt that I had enough experience and enough knowledge that, that was just there to be passed on. And I felt that I wanted to kind of control, the destiny of my three boys.
Sure.
So I took it on myself. I took some of my resources that I had built up over the years, and I invested it into the academy. And so far we've been doing pretty well. Our clientele has been growing steadily to the point where we're up to about 60 kids.
Wow.
Right? Of all different age groups from 4 come all the way up to 16. Initially, like I said, I just wanted to start up, so that I would have something for my kids to a good environment for my kids to go into and learn. And then it kind of grew from there. So we started off in 2015.
Right.
And thus far, like I said, it's been growing steadily. And with this little pandemic and stuff, we've been forced to come to a halt.
Yeah.
For now, but looking forward to probably starting back as soon as the country opens back up.
Mm-hmm.
We're based in the Manny Ramjohn Stadium, the practice field. And like I said, I just wanted to build and create a proper environment for my kids to grow in the sport. So that's kind of how it came about.
Okay.
So with regards to young kids, what do you think is the most important set of lessons that they should learn with their first contact with football? Like, what's your mindset on indoctrinating young children into the sport?
Fun, and in that, we as teachers, we have to try to marry the fundamentals with that that concept of fun, right? As you would know, with younger kids, if it's not fun,
Yeah.
the attention span, it goes out the window, after a while. So it's not like, with adults where you could, drill them and that kind of stuff. You would have to drill them you'd have to kind of disguise, the actual drilling that you'll be doing into, the concept of some sort of fun game or some sort of thing to keep their attention. So, like for me, the younger they are, it's more about discovery and more about, developing a passion for the game, and as they get older, you start to, get a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say militant, but a little bit more, along the lines of more structured drilling kind of thing,
Yeah.
So.
All right. So in the world of football today, you could see that the tens and the more creative players are thing of the past. As they continue to grow, do you believe in more set drills, or do you tend to let them be more creative, show their skills, show their natural skills, or you prefer to get the basics done and grow from there?
Where they come from certain level of freedom, right? So, back in the day, we would say, there were more tens and stuff back in the day as opposed to today.
Yeah.
And I think that's a reflection of, society and how things has back in the day, there were less distractions in terms of things that you could think of today that couldn't have that much back in the day, where, you didn't have a PlayStation or you didn't have no set of TV to go and watch, so kids would go outside and they would play, and they would play in the streets, and they would, play with a certain amount of freedom where they could experiment and try things. And I believe that is fundamentally important in developing that type of player that you're talking about. So what we try to do at my academy is we try to mimic that as much as possible when it's time for the kids and they to play, right? In terms of game situations, we don't really do that much coaching, right? Especially with the younger kids, right? When it's time to play. With the older kids, we try to, give them a little bit more guidance, a little bit more direction, per se, but more from the point of view of allowing them to discover for themselves. So we would kind of guide the process in terms of, we would ask certain questions. We wouldn't tell kids what to do, or you should do this, you should do that in this situation, you should do this, you should do that, We would kind of guide the process. So we'd allow them to figure out certain things on their own based on certain questions that we may ask in the environment, in the coaching environment. So, like with the younger kids, like I said, we just let them play, we just let them play, and as much as possible without too much instructions and that kind of stuff. If we really looking to get something out of what they're trying to do, we try to structure the acts. We get that desired way. We kind of try to operate from that kind of perspective.
So, you mentioned that, when you had your sons, that kind of gave you the motivation to have an academy and stuff like that. Did you ever think about that as a player? Were you already thinking about kind of continuing your football involvement beyond playing?
To be fair, no. To be honest and fair, no. When I got done playing, I basically I was just thinking along the lines of, you know what, that's it for me, basically, with football, you know.
Yeah.
But I had a couple people, you know, who were in my ear, kind of talking to me about, you know, getting involved on the youth level. You know, big up to Sebastian Daly. All right. As one of the main protagonists, he was always in my ear.
Yeah.
You know, like, George, you know, you should get involved, you know, with the youths and try to coach and that kind of stuff. And it was never really something that I really thought about doing, or it was never really something that I was really, you know, thinking that I would be good at. But like I said, you know, with the combination of, you know, people, you know, in my ear, and, you know, my kids, you know, my godson, you know, my partner in crime, Ronnie Hunt, who's my right-hand man with the academy, you know, both of us putting our heads together. That's how, you know, we decided to do the academy. So that's kind of like how it came about. But it was never something that was on the cards for me.
Mm-hmm. And did you go and do like coaching badges and all that kind of stuff? In some, I don't even know that much about the different levels of coaching badges and things that people just get. But did you pursue a lot of that?
Yeah, I did. So I did. There was a license that I did in the US, you know, because I did some coaching over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah. So the F license is basically like a license in the States that, you know, I guess they give it out to, you know, you do this one course and they give it to like parents and stuff who want to coach very young kids who want to get involved. And so I had to get that to do some coaching over in the United States. And then I got here, I did the Dutch license, the C license. So I have those pieces of paperwork.
Fair enough. Would you say as a player? So in a previous episode, we was talking about how like some players they end up being surprised that when they talk about their career, they didn't like football that much. It's almost like they were good at it, so they end up playing it.
Mm-hmm.
Were you a player that loved football pure through and through, or like it was just something you were very good at?
I would say that I was a really, really, really passionate person about football. Like my introduction to the game was pretty young. I was 6 years old when I actually sat down for the first time and watched football on TV. You know, I watched
You remember that?
Yeah. The 1986 World Cup. I was 6 years old, and you know the impression that Diego Maradona left on me.
Right.
Something that really and truly I could say was responsible for, you know, for me really pursuing the game, you know, with real passion. So I can't say that I was one of those who was not passionate about the game. I was very passionate about the game. So I used to live it. And I think that played a big part in me achieving a lot of the things that I achieved in the game because of that passion, you know, I put in a certain amount of work. Probably I could have put in a little bit more, you know, when I think back on it.
Yeah.
But, you know, that passion is what made me put in a certain amount of work to get good enough to play at a certain level. So
Marcus told us he had the same Maradona had the same impression on him. So I imagine when I was growing up, it's real beach here, you know. That's what I imagine.
Yeah. No. Like, I remember our dad, putting us down and, having us, he sat with us and we watched all the games basically,
Yeah.
And that was like my first, what you would like, I was like I was the first introduction to the game.
Yeah.
And it was a good one. It was a good one. It was a good starting point for me.
It was a high level to start.
For sure.
Level to start, yeah.
I was obsessed. I was obsessed with Maradona's game.
Yeah.
I followed him all the way through, the Serie A and all that stuff. And, I tried to model my game, around him. I don't know if I was, I wasn't that successful at that part,
but it's real records you have, man. When I read about you, there's real records but seeing some people calling you a midfielder, some people calling you a striker. What was your position playing?
Well, funny thing about that is me. Naturally, I think I'm a midfielder, right? Coming up through. As a youth player, that's where I played. I played, attacking mid.
Right.
But I had the traits of, I was a goal scoring midfielder. Okay. So when I got to a certain level, right, like as soon as I left Trinidad and I went to the US, to college, a lot of these, the American coaches, they are all about how effective you could be and how best they could use you to get what they need to get done, right? Yeah, so, they saw me as a significant, my coach, he saw me as a goal threat. So he kind of converted me, took me out of the midfield and he's basically of the mentality, he needs to be near the goal, basically. Yeah. So from college, that's where I started to play, play as a centre forward. And it was not a position I don't think naturally, it was a position for me. Yeah. But I was effective. I was effective enough to, continue to progress.
To break some records.
And move my career forward.
To break some records.
So then, did you find yourself even while you're playing on top, dropping deep and connecting the play still, or did he cut that off?
Yeah. And to be honest, I got a earful a lot for that because naturally, you naturally, because I'm a midfielder, I want to be involved, and as a centre forward for periods, I would be out of the game, and it just used to drive me crazy,
Right.
Because I was so accustomed to being involved in the game, and as a centre forward, it's really about just scoring goals, really and truly, That's basically what it is about, scoring goals. So for me, it was difficult because I would drop down in the midfield a lot to play. And the coaches, they would be like, hey, you're up there, score goals. Right? You don't need you down here creating nothing, you need you up there scoring goals. So but I adjusted. That's one thing about me, like I was always the type that, adjusted to my situation. So and tried to make the best out of everything that I did. So
I'm gonna ask a low level question. That is, but what would you say is the biggest difference? And granted, we ain't talking, in Syria or something, but what is the biggest difference you would say tactically or positionally or just the style of play of a forward versus midfield? Is it more about, as a forward, you have more back to goal and you're facing the play, and a midfielder, you're trying to find space and you're looking forward? Like, what would you say is the biggest difference?
Between forwards and between the two positions, what's the biggest difference?
Yeah.
Well, I think as a centre forward, there's a lot more contact. So, and there's always somebody, on your
looking for you.
On your shoulder.
Right.
It's a position that really and truly, you don't have that much time and space to play. There's always somebody, and as you said, you play a lot of times with your back to the target that you're trying to attack, right? And for me, midfielders, I think they have a little bit more. They have more opportunities to try to enjoy the game, to get on the ball, try to dictate the pace, try to dictate how the game goes, as opposed to, the centre forward. It's just more about, what kind of wits you have about you and trying to win that duel against, the stoppers, because their job is a hard job, because they have to try to shut you out for 90 minutes, and you could just within a split second, one moment, you could make a difference. So, like I said, for me, the center midfield position was always the position that I love. That's what I grew up, that's what I grew up with a passion for playing. But the center forward position, I think, is a position that is very, very impactful, in terms of, if you do your job right as a center forward, right, I think you can impact the game more than any other position. You could be the difference between winning and losing. If you do your job right. If you're scoring goals is what wins matches. So if you're doing your job right, I think you could affect the game more than any other position. I think that's why these guys get all the big money. They get all the big money because
spotlight.
Yeah. That's the hardest job is really to score goals, and scoring goals is what wins matches, I think.
Right. You're talking about, well, you are actually one of the perfect players. So we always have this discussion about the guys who like to roam, boy. The Ronaldos, the Suarez, the Zlatan, versus even the Wayne Rooney versus like the Van Nistelrooys and the
Fernando Torres.
Torres that pure 9. He just kind of roaming,
One room.
No roaming?
One room.
Well, he could have run past Real Men in Atletico.
Torres is in and around the box. Murder, right. That's it.
But just about the difference in those type of guys. You being the hybrid that you are, and seeing that goals change matches. Do you have more affinity or towards the guys that roam or to the pure 9s? Like, do you have any thoughts on them?
Yeah, I was never a fan of you see, again, I'm speaking from a position of bias, right? As you said, right? I was never really a fan of, even though I appreciate, what Filippo Inzaghi could bring to
that's the man I was thinking about.
I have an appreciation for them, but I was never really a fan. They were never one of the players that could capture my imagination or make me. There are some players that could just make you. I don't know how to explain it.
Dream.
Make a dream.
You you give it that feeling, when you're watching them. I don't really feel like an Inzaghi could do that for me.
Nah, I doubt. Yeah.
So like my ideal center forward would be like a Ronaldo, the original R9.
Yeah, R9.
Like he for me had everything. He could score the scrappy ones. He had immense talent, right? He had skills, he had strength, he had speed, he had everything. He ticked all the boxes. So like for me, he was not only an entertainer, but he was also somebody who was very effective in terms
Ruthless.
of providing, doing the job, what the position calls for in terms of scoring goals. People like Inzaghi, and they would score the goals.
Yeah.
Right, but if they're not scoring goals, sometimes you have to wonder what else they bring into the table, or what else they bring forward to the team.
Right.
Other than being a goal threat, So, and don't get me wrong. The fact that people like Inzaghi, and they had a good career.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even say a good career, an incredible career. He scored tons of goals. People like Inzaghi. I don't get me wrong. I have a full appreciation for players like that and what they can bring to a team in terms of the morale. You take the field with somebody like that. It gives you a certain level of confidence because.
Right.
You always feel like, yo, you know what? This guy, he's up there, and all he is looking to do is score goals.
Yep.
And that within itself, gives you a certain level of confidence and stuff. Going into the game, knowing that you have a guy there who he's living to score.
All you need is a half a chance, and that's it. Yeah.
Half a chance, and that's it.
Yeah.
For sure. They definitely need it. Just to round up on your coaching aspect, are there any coaches that you look up to as your North Star? You like his style? Maybe you like Zlatan, even though he was real skillful, he plays without a 10 really. Well, Modric is that 10 kind of, but more of a 8. But so do you have any coaches that managers that you look up to?
I was always a fan of Louis Van Gaal. All right, I know a lot of people don't like Louis Van Gaal. All right, but I was always a fan of him. Even when he was at the two stints he had at Barcelona. Even though he had a little falling out with Rivaldo and stuff, I always felt that his football.
Yeah.
His football, I always felt it was just attractive to me.
Okay.
Right?
I thought you were going to say even when he was at Manchester United, yes? What?
No, but even when he was at Manchester United, I honestly believe that coaches, they're only as good as the players that they have. All right. And for me, I don't think he had the personnel
for what he was,
right, to play the type of football that he wanted to play.
All right. Okay.
Right. I think there was some gaps in his personnel.
Yeah.
And his style is a style that he's basically, he kind of controls the pieces, and that doesn't work for everybody. That doesn't work for all players. It doesn't work. You need specific types of players to work within a system like that.
You don't really need much Mavericks in your team for that. Yeah, they ain't going
Correct. Correct. You need Mavericks in specific areas.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So, like I said, for me, I always felt like Louis Van Gaal, I always enjoyed his football.
Yeah.
Even at Ajax, I felt that, the football that they played
for sure
was attractive for me. It probably wasn't attractive for a lot of people. They think it's too slow, or they think it's too methodical. But I like a passing game. I'm the type of guy that possession based
total football.
Yeah. I enjoy watching that. Pep Guardiola, has taken it to a different level in terms of the speed. He added a different element with the pressing and the speed of play and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And his football as well is as attractive as you could find. Really and truly.
And just to say this, Joel, how do I say it? I say Pep, maybe he is like Van Hal in the sense that he don't really like Mavericks, you know.
Yeah. Very
and Robin, he's trouble in the Champions League.
Correct. They position is very important. Position in terms of, from the back to a certain point in the attack, right? Positionally, you have to be disciplined in those systems with these guys as the managers. They give you freedom from a certain point in the attack into freedom, but outside of that, you have to play within a system. And positionally, you have to be disciplined. Right? And like I said, for me, it's more attractive for me. I like to watch, the football that is produced by, the Pep Guardiola, as I said, like the Ruud Van Gaals and stuff like that.
Don't tell me you're a Man City fan in the job.
No, not really. No, I'm not. To be honest with you, I used to be a huge Barcelona fan, but the amount of people who's Barcelona fan now, I just watch football now. I just watch football. I don't ever claim anybody. I don't ever say,
that's me, boy.
You sound like the next guy on the panel here, boy.
That sound like me there, boy.
Too many wagons, I was a huge fan. Like I remember, being in college. That would have been like 2000, 99, 2000. And I remember Barcelona struggling.
Yeah, big time.
Significantly, I remember on campus, we had an English guy who was a Chelsea fan. We had some Trinidadians who were Man United fans and stuff. And I was the only guy who was like, yo, because I was in love with Rivaldo. I was in love with Patrick Kluivert.
You had like Kluivert?
Yeah.
Kluivert is one of the most talented players, and he could just really throw it.
Man, I was in love with those players, and there was a point where they were struggling. For sure. When they brought in Fabio Russian back, and they had this guy who went to Wolves, the Brazilian kid, short guy. They were struggling. I don't think the Champions League was what they were fighting up for. They were fighting up for titles. They were fighting up for
titles. Fighting to get the
bicycle kick. Yeah. The Champions League. That's where they were. Good right? Time. And at that time there was nobody. Barcelona didn't have any. The amount of Barcelona fans there are today, I guarantee you, those guys were not fans back in that time.
They do not know.
I guarantee you. So
if you ask one of them who is Simao,
Sam Bros. So they don't know.
When you tell me
Silvino,
Riquelme passed through Sabio.
Riquelme had a short stint. Very short stint.
I'd ask somebody obscure like Oleguer and men like that.
Oleguer, Gerrard, these guys. So these players, they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know because when Pep came in and Messi and Ronaldinho and teams started winning.
Yeah.
That's when again all these fans,
Right. It's once Ronaldinho was there with Rijkaard and they win that something. I forget what they win. They win the Champions League, I think.
2006, they beat us.
Yeah. Then it's when everybody's a Barcelona fan.
Everybody jump on the bandwagon. And then Pep took it to a different level.
Next level.
Yeah.
And then Messi versus Ronaldo rivalry take it to the next level.
Correct.
And we look back. Well, luckily for I think us, I go say us, because after right now, what they're going through right now. It kind of dying down what this fandom look like.
The wagon is trying to jump off the wagon.
Man don't know what to say. Man don't really know what to say right now.
No, but for me, I don't ever claim. The people, plenty of my friends and stuff, they would say, hey, he's a closet Barcelona fan. I don't know. He's a closet fan. He's a closet fan. But I don't ever claim them. I don't ever claim to be a fan of anybody.
Yeah.
But to be fair, to be honest, I am a Barcelona fan.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we could going backward now.
Yeah.
You say your first memory of football is watching Maradona play. As a youth man, what would you say were your natural abilities?
Well, I don't really like to talk about myself too much, to be honest, to talk about my traits and that kind of stuff.
I'll ask you about yourself.
Since you're forcing me, right?
Yeah.
No, I was always a good passer.
Okay.
I somebody with good vision, good touch.
Your head could be up. Your head could be up, unlike most people looking down the whole time.
Yeah. But that wasn't something that that came. I think that was something that came with work, especially my touch. Man, I can't even tell you how many hours I spent hitting balls
off our walls.
Yeah. And on the rebound, working on that touch. To the point where now I even recommend that to some of my players, my players in my academy, because I know what it did for me.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, when certain things start to show itself on the football field, people say, "Hey, God bless this boy, he lucky." It came from above. But if I had to be honest, I would say that I put in a lot of work into, my game.
Yeah.
And that is what helped me to showcase certain things and, have people say, "Hey, you're a good player," and that kind of stuff. That was all the result of work.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I believe in. I believe in that because I've seen what it had done for me.
Yeah. So just to re-emphasize, we wanted to talk about yourself so that if a youth man hearing it could say, "Wait now, my touch really ain't too good." But I hear this man who was good saying, "Hey, I could hit it off a wall and
practice."
So you're not really talking about yourself. You're educating somebody right now.
Yeah.
So you're a good passer. You work hard on your touch. Your first memory of organized football. How old were you?
Probably around 7.
Probably
7, 8. Yeah, not primary school. There was a club that I played with my older brother Marcus.
Right.
Called Sparks.
Right.
And I believe that would have had to been like U10s or something like that.
Nobody want to play all year.
Huh?
Nobody want to play all year. You see them brothers?
No, actually, we used to get battered.
Okay.
Yeah. But even though we used to get battered, we always had little standouts. I was a standout. My older brother was a standout. Yeah. So we used to still do our thing. In between. So if we lose, if we get 10, we might score a little 2. And that brings me to a point where, when I wrote common entrance, at the time it was common entrance, right?
Yeah.
I passed for ASJA. ASJA Boys.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that.
ASJA Boys College.
Yeah.
So, they had a U14 team.
Right, of course.
And the guy who's the principal right now, Alimali, really, really great guy, good guy. A guy that I credit with a lot of, the success that I've had.
Yeah.
Right. In terms of, giving me confidence, talking to me in a particular way, dealing with me in a particular way as a young boy. Right. So yeah, at ASJA, the U14s, we would come up against the St. Benedict's and the Prez and all these schools, and we would go and we would get destroyed. Like we would get destroyed, but I would still do my thing. I would score a little 2, a little 3, to the point where I remember, I don't know if you all remember Mr. Ali, who was the head of St. Benedict's. He was like I used to recruit all the point men and them. He used to recruit them.
I'm a point man who went Benedict's,
he really, really tried hard to get me to go to St. Benedict's College. Yeah, just off of us when ASJA played St. Benedict's, me being probably the only threat. You could say. Yeah, he really tried to get me to go there, but it so worked out that, I ended up getting the opportunity to go to Naparima. Leroy Span at the time was the coach. And he saw me and, he wanted me to come, and it was a no-brainer at the time. Even though St. Benedict's at the time was the stronger footballing school, Naparima, obviously was the better school in terms of academics. So,
for sure.
My dad and it was a no-brainer. So
for sure,
I ended up going there, and that's how that worked out. So I was just basically, it kind of that conversation kind of took me back to ASJA boys, where we used to get destroyed. But I still used to have a little moment or two where I'd have a little flash in the pan.
Oh, but when you have a game like that, you come out to the game happy, or you're still vexed, or like how?
To be honest, I used to be okay. I think the right answer would have been, used to be upset because you lost. But no, once I felt that I did what, once I felt like I played well. You understand? And I actually created some sort of danger, or I created a problem for the opposition. I was fine.
And I guess in fairness to you, it's not as if it's realistic to expect ASJA to win the game.
Correct.
So it's not like if you really should be vexed that we didn't win.
Yeah, we would go into games knowing that we were going to struggle. Yeah. There was one other guy who was there with me, and he actually transferred to Naparima as well. Sanjeev Katwaru, right? He was pretty good. He was pretty good. So it was between me and him, and then we had a goalkeeper as well, and Silvari. So the three of us kind of was like carrying the team. And all three of us ended up at Naparima.
Yeah, that's normally how it works.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
That's some Southman politics there again.
Like he said, when you play aside, there's scouting going on.
Again, scouting,
scouting for sure.
Yeah, okay.
Back in the day, well, Naps and Prez right now, but back in the day it was Benedict's.
And Naps.
I think when I was younger, I was really Benedict's and Prez. Really, Benedict's and Prez were the two real powerhouses. I think when I started to get closer to graduation and stuff, like Naparima started to really, because we actually got demoted and went down into senior grade and then came back up.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Was that Naps? Naps got demoted?
Yeah. We were in senior grade. Like when I got to Naparima, I think I was in Form 4. We were playing in senior grade. Yeah, at the time we had gotten Jan Stedman had become the coach.
Right.
I don't know if you all know of Jan Stedman, legendary.
I went to Benedict's and
that's a Benedict. Yeah.
He also came back and coached Benedict's as well.
Correct.
Make a lap, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, so he came over to Naparima and started coaching, and that's when Naparima actually really started to become a powerhouse football inside.
Right.
So
you are around the time of Pompey and those guys? Or
Pompey?
Oh. Yeah.
Pompey?
Yeah.
Pompey, they are after me.
After.
Yeah, they're younger.
Okay. Yeah. All right, no problem. So tell us a bit about your Naparima days, the playing intercolor and stuff. Could you remember?
Yeah, it was, I mean, like I said, we were trying to find ourselves because, like I said, we got relegated and we were in the senior grade, and then Jan Stedman came in.
Yeah.
And he kind of changed things. He kind of, came and brought his philosophy to the school, and our football started to improve.
Yeah.
And he improved me as well significantly. He was very hard on me.
Also, how did he improve you?
I think for me, he kind of pushed me to a point where, because when he got there, I was, as you could say, people were, they were a little murmuring, hey, he's good, whatever, and Jan Stedman is not the type that really believes in that kind of stuff. Like, you good, there are no such thing as, you good. You know what I mean? And I think in our training sessions, he was extremely hard on me in particular, in terms of, he kind of tried to push me. He held me to a very high standard, some of the stuff that, he would pull me up on.
Yeah.
I mean, and to be fair, he did it to everybody, I could say.
Yeah.
I could really say he held everybody to a very high standard. He was very, very demanding,
Very demanding.
Very demanding. So, you would be playing and it would just be, you'd be playing and you'd be like, yo, you don't want to make mistakes, too many mistakes, because you send him for a lap, you send him running, So like for me, I needed that. I needed someone to help, help me keep my feet on the ground.
Yeah.
And he was a perfect coach for that.
Yeah.
Perfect coach for that. So I at no point during my time, developing, I could say that, I ever already got too ahead of myself. I was always humble. I was always thinking about how I could get better, because I never felt like I was good enough. I always felt like, I wanted to, it was always, hey, I had to do this, I had to be better, I had to be, I always felt like I needed to be better. So that kind of motivated me to keep improving.
Okay. So, like you said, attacking midfield
Mm-hmm.
throughout your days at Naparima?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, attacking midfield. Like I said, I was a pretty good passer, and I enjoyed, going in areas where it was difficult for defenders or midfielders to pick me up. So like within that little area between the stopper and the midfielders, I would frequent those little areas and try to pick up the ball and turn, and then try to find a final pass or try to score from those areas. So that was something that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed doing that, roaming around and trying to find areas to hurt the opposition and trying to confuse.
Yeah.
That was something that I going into games, I always thought about. I always thought about how could I confuse these guys? How could I?
Yeah.
But that means you can't play for Louis Van Gaal, though.
So it was hard to pick you up, because if you had a midfielder, he not necessarily coming that deep to pick you up.
No. I would, even if I came deep, I would come deep, and then I would come deep almost as a decoy, just to come if it is I felt like someone was picking me up in that area, to take them out of the area and then go back in there to see if I could get the ball to create some sort of danger.
Okay. So what were you, a left footer, right footer?
Both feet.
Okay.
Both feet. But I preferred, you know, you could say I was a right footer. But I was pretty good with both feet, I could say.
Okay. Yeah. And the type of goals you like to score, I know people had a favorite. Did you prefer the instep? Did you prefer the side foot curlers?
Top of the box.
Yeah.
My ideal goal would be probably picking it up top of the box, turn, and just striking it. Try to strike it, you know, as hard as I could.
No curlers. You ain't doing no curlers. It's bullets.
No. Straight leather.
Nice. Did you by chance like Stevie G or Lampard? Anyway, no?
Yeah. My game, if I were to really say, if I had to really, you know, look at say that I had to compare my game to anybody, it would be kind of like a Lampard or a Steven Gerrard, you know, a goal scoring midfielder, somebody who, like you know, always roaming on the top of the box. If you gave him an opportunity to hit it, it could create danger, you know.
Were you fast? Were you fast?
Well, that's what they said. I was fast in the States. I never considered myself to be a quick person. Probably over a short distance, maybe my first couple steps, you know, maybe were. But you know, coming up in Trinidad, I was never considered fast. But you know, as soon as I got to the US in college,
you're fast.
People were like amazed. They were like.
Hit him in space. Hit him in space. He fast.
But I mean, I don't really consider myself to be that quick.
Okay. So in did you guys win anything in Naparima?
We won. Well, back in those days, it was it had it separated. So you know, it had North Zone, South Zone.
Yeah.
It's not like how it is now where everybody
a table,
You're right. You had the North Zone, South, Central, that kind of thing. So we had won the South Zone.
Okay.
And I think we got knocked out in the intercall against St. Benedict's.
Okay.
And then in the Big Four, we lost in the final to Mukurapu, the stadium.
Mukurapu.
Yeah, I remember that.
Was that with Cornell Glen or that before?
Cornell Glen was on that, not the Mukurapu. Cornell Glen was on that team.
Oh, you was Mukurapu, okay.
Cornell Glen was on that team. I can't remember, you know. I don't think so, you know.
Okay.
He might have been, and I don't think he was on that team, but he was playing in that time though.
Okay.
Remember, he used to play in a little red boots. So I can't remember what school he used to play for. It might have been Mukurapu actually, you know. But I don't remember him though. I really don't remember him.
I'll verify. Okay, so only won the South Zone and did well.
Yeah.
That was your final year at Naparima.
Yeah, that was my final year. That was 98, I believe that was.
Right.
1998.
I went into secondary school at 99, so I wasn't following. So I really know. I've had a research. So tell us about the process about being scouted to go to college, you know? Right.
So that 1998, that was a good year for me. Well, I had been voted secondary school's footballer of the year that year.
Right.
And at the time, the main guys who were reporting on secondary school's football at the time was Ruskin Mark, and Ashford Jackman, right?
Ashford, yep.
So, you know, Ruskin Mark was, you know, he was a big fan of mine. Right?
That sounds so familiar.
me and Ruskin go, you know, good friends. You know, he did a lot for me, and he did a lot for me in terms of, you know, setting my path, you know, to leave this country to go and have a career outside of here. So, you know, I owe a lot to Ruskin, you know, but he was a fan of mine, you know, he liked, you know, he liked my game and stuff. And at the time there was interest, from Colombia, right, which is, Ivy League. But at the time, Leslie Fitzpatrick was at the school.
Familiar.
I don't know if you know Tiger, Leslie Fitzpatrick.
That name sounds so familiar.
I know the name.
Yeah, Tiger is an ex-national. Roy.
Yeah.
Leslie Fitzpatrick. Anyways, so he was at the time. He was there at the school, and their coach there was very, very much interested. He was making contact, you know, with my parents and stuff. But Ruskin, who went to the same college that I went to, you know, he came and, you know, he convinced my parents to send me to West Virginia to go to school.
Wheeling University.
So they kind of made that decision in terms of, you know, what school. You know, looking back on it, I think Columbia probably would have been the better option. But in terms of the, you know, the program and stuff, the football program, you know, I think that kind of, you know, Ruskin kind of sold it in such a way that, you know, we decided that, you know, we would go to West Virginia to this school we were in. And you know, on getting there, you know, the facilities alone, right? Because it was most of the facilities at the time when I got there it was new facilities. They had just built the stadium.
Okay.
Right? Practice fields and stuff, you know, they had just done it up. Right. So everything was new.
Yeah.
You know, when I got there, I was like, man. You know when you're in Trinidad and, you know, you're watching the football on the TV and you see the field lines, you know, it had patterns and stuff, you know. And, you know, I get to West Virginia and, you know, as I go up the hill through the gates, you know, there's a practice field up on the top. And, you know, you cast your eye on this field and, boy, it's the nicest field you'll probably ever see in your life.
Right.
Patterns everywhere, checkerboard patterns, and then you drive around and you see the stadium, and I was like, yo, I have arrived. Right. At that point, just seeing the facilities, I was thinking in my mind, yo, I reach.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, Wheeling was a very good experience for me. That was a springboard for me to go on and do, you know, all the things that, you know, I did as a footballer, you know, in my career. You know, that was the springboard. It was I can't say that it was a bad decision because, you know, I think, you know, not going to Wheeling, you never know what could have happened, you know, in terms of I could have probably gone to Colombia and it, you know, my life probably wouldn't have turned out the way that it did. My career probably wouldn't have turned out the way that it did. So for me, you know, my experience there was a very, very good one. Right. The football there at the time was a very high standard, you know. The team, you know, we were ranked. My sophomore year, we were ranked 5th in the country, and that year we were number 1 in the country throughout the year.
Wow.
And then we lost in the tournament, and that kind of moved us down to end the season 5th in the country. So
where was Colombia ranked?
That's why I don't know. I think they only play against Ivy League schools as well. I don't think they play against, you know, they would play like against the Browns. So I guess the competition would have been limited as well.
You arrive in Wheeling, West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Before you go in, culture shock.
But hold up. Just to clarify, is that a HBCU?
No.
Okay, I don't know.
It's a private university, right? You're laughing.
So
They call it PWI.
At the time, it was Roman Catholic Jesuit University, but I think today they've dropped the Jesuit name because I guess they're not as affiliated with the Roman Catholic, so it's just Wheeling University now. But when I was there, it was Wheeling Jesuit University, which is basically, an attachment to the Roman Catholic faith. So,
right. PWI.
Yeah.
I had to research the first time I heard it. I was like, what is that? And I was like, so right. So yeah, culture shock.
Culture shock, yeah. There was a lot of things that was different, for sure.
it's always the food, but don't tell me you like beef stroganoff and thing, Don't tell me that sequence,
Powdered eggs.
Lord.
I thought the food was actually pretty good. I didn't have a problem with the food at all. I thought actually that was actually one of the good things.
Way.
Yeah.
Me and Andre went to school in South Carolina, so.
No, I enjoyed the food there, man. I enjoyed the food there. But in terms of, just going there and, having that pressure of, expectations.
Yeah.
Right? When you go over there, they are expecting certain things from you when you arrive. They think, you're supposed to be the man.
Yeah.
Put the team on your back.
Right.
Right.
So
as a freshman?
As a freshman.
Lord.
As a freshman.
Wow.
Right? The expectations were pretty high for me because like I said, I came there as quote unquote, probably the top talent in Trinidad at the time.
Right. Top prospect, right? Yeah.
This player of the year, this is probably the top talent coming out of Trinidad at the time. So, even though I was a freshman, the expectations were pretty high, and in all fairness, my coach never, I think the expectations or the pressure probably came from me putting pressure on myself, right? Because in all fairness, my coach at the time, Jim Regan, he was really, really good with me. He never made me feel like, he never put pressure on me, let me say. Right? A lot of times like I'll give you a funny story, like, a lot of times in training, right? Because we had a couple other Trinidadian boys on the team, right? And I remember like my freshman year, especially my freshman year, my roommate, he was a St. Benedict's boy, Ronnie Hunt.
Yeah.
He's a point man too.
Yeah.
You're supposed to know Ronnie Hunt. I
never met him personally, but I play against him in the indoor thing, and everybody always had this reverence for him, but so like he was real good.
But like you didn't rate him or say, I don't like your tone.
No, like I saying, I never see him play. Well, I see him play in the indoor, like left footer, real skillful.
Okay, yeah.
Like when you hear men, when he come in, when you hear men talk now, boy, hey Max, I think I'll call him Max.
Yeah, Max.
Max, come on my side now, but I say this man ought to be real good, boy. But he was before my time now.
He used to be good. He used to be good.
I love that.
So if I could say probably you see me in the indoor and probably was like,
No, you're still skillful.
Yeah. Touches.
Yeah.
Anyways, he was my roommate at the time, and he was there as well. He was he was on the team and stuff. And I remember, my coach, if he had anything that he felt like, all right, he needed to correct me on anything, he didn't feel comfortable enough to come directly to me and say, hey, do it this way, that. Because he probably felt that I probably would have taken it in a particular way, and he didn't want to upset me in any way. You know what he used to do? He used to go to Ronnie, to Max, and say, Max, tell Joel X, Y, Z.
Oh my God.
And Max would come to me, and he would say, you know, Jimmy said X, Y, Z. And I was just like, you know, at the time, I was just thinking like, oh, this guy is so concerned about, you know, probably my mental state and me being in the right frame of mind that he didn't want to upset me at all.
Yeah.
He didn't want to upset me at all. So he probably felt, you know, he wasn't the best bring across whatever message, if it's a message where, you know, coaches will, you know, you do something wrong, a coach will, you know, pull you up and say, hey, X, Y, Z, you know, don't do it this way, do it this way. I just felt like he just didn't want to upset me, so he wanted to make sure that when the message came across, it came across the correct way, you know?
Yeah.
So like I said, he was somebody that for me, he was very good for me. He always made me feel comfortable, you know,
So did you hit the ground running freshman year, top scorer and thing, or like how was the progression?
My freshman year, I was the top scorer on our team.
Okay.
You know, I made conference team, I made our all regional team, and I was a rookie of the year as well.
Mm.
So I kind of hit the ground running, but I always knew, you know, in the back of my mind that, you know, I could give more. You know?
Level up, yeah.
I felt like I could give more. I think that first year was kind of like a year where, you know, you're just getting adjusted to everything, you know, adjusted to the style of play, adjusted to the way the game is played there,
right?
You know, the mentality, everything.
I think was it Marcus who said the biggest thing he noticed one time was fitness?
Yeah.
It was Marcus, right? I think so.
Yeah. I ain't sure, but
fitness. That's one of the things that, you know. When I went over there, I was very, very, you know, wiry, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the food that we eat or what, but I went over there and I was tall, but I was not strong. That strength, I didn't really have that strength, you know?
Mm.
And, you know, a lot of times, you know, in games, you know, I would struggle with that, you know, the physicality of the game and stuff. And because that was a big thing that's a big thing with American, you know, American football. Like,
physicality.
You know, a lot of the players are very, very fit and they're very physical.
Yeah.
Mm.
Especially their defenders. They're not as technical, but that part of the game, they're very, very good athletes. Let's put it that way.
For sure.
Right? So that was, you were talking about culture shock. That was a culture shock for me. Because, you know, even though back home, you know, it's pretty competitive, you know, that part of the game in terms of the physical element, you know, that was a whole different thing that I had to adjust to, you know.
Yeah.
So that was probably one of the main, when we talking culture shocks, that was probably one of the main things I had to, you know, in the off season. You know, I started to go in the gym when I was in Trinidad. Gym? There was such thing as gym. You train on the field and that's it. You do some push-ups, you do some sit-ups and that's it. You know, but, you know, in the off season, after my freshman year, I went in the gym.
Yeah.
You know, and I was actually working in the gym as well.
You put on like 10 pounds or?
I put on some weight. I don't know. I can't say if it was 10 pounds or 20 pounds, but
I think I put on 10 pounds too. Not even playing. I put on 10 pounds too. In terms of the same thing. I leave Trinidad, Maga man. Sophomore year, I had to do something.
Yeah. So that off season, I built my body up.
Yeah.
And then I really started to show my sophomore year. Right, and I had a lot of records in my sophomore year. Scored a lot of goals.
How did it impact your games? Putting on muscle and actually being a better athlete? How did it impact your game?
Well, like I said, for me, the only thing that I was struggling with at the time as a freshman was the physicality of the game,
Yeah.
right? In terms of, my ability to play. That was never really an issue, right? And what these Americans they do a lot of times is if they recognize that you are a talented player, they would try to be physical with you.
They bruise
Try
you a
to
little
throw you
bit.
off. Yeah, they will try to be physical with you to throw you off. That's I don't know if that's a cultural thing or what, but they tend to be a lot more physical with talented players to try to get them off of their game.
Right.
So like for me, my sophomore year, building up my body a little bit and getting a lot more fitter as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was there was nothing that really they could have really do to really deny me, you could say.
Right.
Yeah. So that kind of reflected in the result that I was able to get at the end of the season with all the goals and stuff like that.
So I mean, so this is college. So then after, so when did the indoor start? So you went college, you smash a number of records that we would actually have to end up linking below and things like that.
Yeah.
Then after that, you played. I think you played professionally outdoor first, or was it indoor first?
Indoor.
Indoor first.
Right. So, my senior year, right, it was interest from, Columbus crew, and then at the time, a team out of Cleveland in the MISL, called the Cleveland Force. Now, in conversations with both parties, right, financially,
Yeah,
it was better for me to go the route of, playing indoor. Now, a lot of people, including my parents, felt like that was a decision that was not a good one, right? Especially for my career and that kind of stuff. But at the time, I felt, right, and I basically made, people advise you and stuff, and I made a decision that, you know what, I'm not going to go, to Columbus, and have to be, out of college and struggling to make a living, while playing,
Right.
To try to probably, dislodge probably a couple players that, might have the advantage over me in terms of, being American and all these different things. I just felt like, coming out of college, I needed that security of, yes, playing, but also being able to take care of myself properly. Right. So I went the route of Cleveland and I started to play indoor, right, with Cleveland Force. And at the time, Cleveland, the franchise was a very storied franchise in the MISL.
Okay.
And that experience as well was a different one, right? And it was one that I think helped me develop even more, right? Because the game is a faster game.
Yeah.
It's a game that
you could describe the game as it does.
Say that again.
Can you describe how indoor football is set up?
It's all right. So it's a similar game to futsal.
Okay.
Right. Same. You could say same concept. Right. The only thing is, there are a couple added elements to it that, probably adds to the dynamic of the game in terms of, there are boards, so the ball doesn't ever go out.
Okay.
Right. It goes over the boards. So it's almost like a hockey rink. And is basically AstroTurf,
Right.
and you play, hockey. It's similar to futsal, very similar to futsal.
So 4 and a keeper, 5 and a keeper.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it's a game just like futsal. It sharpens you up.
Yeah.
It makes you think faster. It makes you play faster.
Yeah.
So, I think that move was a good move for me at the time, because right out of, at the time there, I was playing with a guy who was from Montreal, and he was playing for the Montreal Impact.
Right.
And it was very, he was very fond of me. This guy name is Nevio Pizzolito. He was very fond of my game. He spoke to the coach at the time, and he got me to, look into, going and play for the Montreal Impact. And they asked me to come over. I went over and stuff, and played in a couple of friendly games, and the rest is history. They signed me to a contract there for a year and an option.
Yeah.
And I hit the ground running at the time.
Forward, as playing forward.
My first center forward.
Right.
You're fully converted now, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a forward.
Yeah.
And I never, from college, I never played
Midfielder game.
Well, actually, to be honest, there was a couple occasions where I played in the midfield, but not in the center, out wide with Montreal.
Okay.
But outside of that, I was center forward.
Right.
Yeah, center forward. So yeah, I went over there and kind of hit the ground running. As my first game, and we played against the Whitecaps, Vancouver. There's a huge rivalry there between Montreal and Vancouver. A huge rivalry, and I think that was my first game, and we won that game 3-2, and I scored a double in that game.
Okay.
And then I followed up that with, we won 3-1 against Toronto.
Right.
And I scored in that game as well. So there was like about 3 games in a row that I scored.
Yeah.
And then I picked up an injury. That was I picked up my first injury then. Right?
Was that like your first biggest injury in your whole career?
Yeah. That was my first proper injury.
What was it?
My career. Right? But I'm going to reveal something to you guys, right? Like, we will go through my entire, journey as a player, right? And, during this period where, I was playing professionally, I came to the realization that, a lot of people would say, Joel, you wasted your career, you should have taken, this route, that route, you should have gone this way, you should have reached further than you have reached, as a footballer. I should have done more. A lot of people tell me that constantly, right? But I have come to the realization that, a lot of my journey was not really about me, right? And I'm circling right back to, the academy and stuff, right? I did a lot of things that when I look back, right, I've come to the realization that my career was never about, Joel making it or Joel being, this big footballer or whatnot. It was about me, gathering information, gathering knowledge to pass on. To pass on in particular to my kids. Because right now I have 2 boys who are fully in the game right now. And, they're showing immense ability.
Yeah.
Right. And, in seeing how they are progressing as players, young players, it sent off a light bulb in my head that, Joel, you know what? Your career wasn't about you, it's about them. Right. So coming back to Montreal now, a lot of my Like I negotiated my own contracts, all my contracts.
Right.
My contract at Montreal, Cleveland, Vancouver. I didn't have an agent. You know, people approach me to be my agent. And I always felt like, you know, I'm a smart boy. I went to college. You know, why should I, you know, have you talk for me so that you could take money out of my pocket? I felt like there was nothing that you could do that I can do myself, you know, and that within itself was not smart, right? It was not smart because, and you know, you know, when you think back now, you would see, but at the time, that was my trail of thought. But there is true value in having an agent. True value.
Well,
right?
talk about that now. What's the true value?
Well, this is the main thing for me, right? When you have an agent, right, a lot of times, you know, you sit down around a table and you're negotiating things, right? And, you know, you're dealing with an owner, you're dealing with a coach, right? And a lot of times, depending on how the negotiations go, you might end up in a position where, or in a situation where you might upset some people at the club and you might end up being victimized as a player. Whereas, you know, if you have an agent, he could be the guy. They will look at him as a bad guy.
They'll blame the agent.
They would just say, you know what, Joel's agent is an idiot. And, you know, you could still go about your business playing without people looking at you in a particular way and dealing with you in a particular way within the club.
Right.
You understand? So, like, these are the lessons that, you know, that I learned, you know, over time. You know, you have an agent for a reason. The agent basically is that person who will sit down on the negotiating table, right? And he will be the one to ruffle feathers, not you.
Right.
And you know, the owner is not going to look at you like, he's a this, he's a that, he's a the other. You know, when his contract is up, get him out of here. You know, that kind of ways. On the flip side, you know, if you have an agent, you know, the owner may come to you, right? And he may say, hey, you know, I don't like your agent and whatnot, Joel, you're a good guy, whatnot. And that could actually work
in your favor.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like...
This sound like what Pogba does be doing, man. That's what Pogba's be doing. He's have real causing drama. And
he's
then,
the bad guy, I'm the nice guy.
And then they come to Pogba directly and sweeten his deal and thing too.
Yeah, correct. So like there is true value in having an agent, and at the time, you know, over the years, I was just looking at it purely from the standpoint of
money in your pocket.
There's nothing you can do that I can do.
Right.
Why am I giving you money? Why am I taking my money and giving it to you? That's giving away money, but it's not.
Right.
It's not. So like that's the agent part, but back to Montreal. So I hit the ground running, and then I picked up my first significant injury. And, you know, the impression that I had left, right, it was so significant at the time that that year I didn't play the entire season. I was just on the sidelines.
Wow.
You know, just getting, you know, being treated and stuff. And then when we went into the playoffs, you know, I had started to recover and stuff, and they threw me straight into all the lineups, coming straight up. I played in the final as well, and I was nowhere near 100%, like
right.
nowhere near. But the coach and the club basically, you know, I guess, like I said, the impression that I had left initially,
right.
You know, they were so impressed that, you know, they were willing to put other players to the side and throw me in the lineup because they actually believed in what I could do on the football field. So with that, you know, we end up winning.
Yeah.
We end up winning our title there with Montreal. And then the next year, I was out for the entire year again because I went back to play indoor for a bit, and then I picked up another injury.
What injuries were you getting? Knees or like what kind of injury?
First I had initially I thought I had a groin strain, right? But it turned out to be something called osteitis pubis, right? Which is almost like a degeneration of the bone area in your groin.
Wow.
So, and I was told that I had like the early stages of I was showing the early stages of a degenerative bone disease.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. So that injury, I picked up that injury, and that kind of kept coming and going, and then you would pick up. Sometimes you get back healthy, and then you get a little hamstring something. It started to get little niggles, little stupid niggles,
Right.
So, like my second year at Montreal, I didn't play the entire year. They just brought me in. They brought me in, and they just had me there, and I was just there, and getting treatment and that kind of stuff. And I didn't play a game. I don't know, maybe I did play a game. I think I played a game at the end, towards the end of the year. I played one game in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right? But again, one of the contributing factors, and again, this comes back to the point I was making earlier about, gathering knowledge, right? One of the contributing factors for why I was in a situation where I was just getting injured over and over. And I just couldn't, it was almost like I couldn't shake that injury bug, right? One of the issues, right, that I was having was that I wasn't taking care of my body, all right? So, especially that year when I didn't play at all, I found myself, nightlife,
partying,
drinking, you're not taking care of your body, and you're thinking, well, there's no harm, you go out, you're not resting the way you're supposed to rest, you're not putting in to your body the things that you need to put into your body to heal properly, right? And I honestly believe that, that was a contributing factor to why I found it so difficult to recover from, and I kept getting new injuries every time I started back, picked up another injury after injury, and when you think back now, right, I don't think I did the things that was necessary to really bring my body back to the place that it needed to be.
Rehab, yeah.
Yeah, well, I was doing rehab. I was doing a lot of fitness work, right? But again, if you're not putting in the right things in your body, you're not resting the way you're supposed to be resting. Because I'll be honest with you, I was out almost every night.
Right.
Yeah, literally. And Montreal is that kind of place.
Yeah.
That city is unbelievable.
And this before, I think, this is like 2005 and thing, right? 2006.
Yeah. 2000. This is like 2005. Yeah, around 2005. It's 2005.
If I remember correctly, on the larger international scale and thing, I don't think sports science was that big yet. So I don't think a lot of the teams was kind of strict on what you're supposed to be eating and thing in general, right?
No. You were responsible for yourself.
Yeah.
You were responsible for yourself.
I think that came about 2010. All of a sudden, is teams telling players, "Dog, you can't drink no Coke, no pizza." Thing.
So I was getting caught up.
Yeah,
I was getting caught up, with the the other stuff off the field and the life off the field, you know, and I wasn't really focused on, I was thinking I was being focused in terms of, you know, I would go to my rehab, I would, you know, do my training on the side, you know, with the trainers and that kind of stuff, and I would, you know, push myself. Yeah. And like I said, it was work. I mean, you're getting paid, you know, yeah, so you had to come and you had to gauge and you had to work. All right. So at the end of the day, it was work. But again, like I said, you know, your body, you need to take care of your body, especially when you put in your body through a certain amount of trauma. I would say, I mean, I don't know if trauma is the right word, but the kind of work that you're being succumbed to, kind of work your body has to take the miles and stuff that you're putting on your body. Yeah. Right. You have to make sure you're taking care of it, or else it's going to break down. It is going to break down. Yeah.
So you basically ended up. So after that, you ended up retiring soon after because of injuries.
Right. So what happened was I ended up recovering for a little bit.
Wait, but hold on. Where's your national team call up in this?
Right. That's in 2007.
Okay.
So that's later.
Okay.
Yeah, that's later. So that's after the World Cup as well. So basically, also I have a story for you as well, as we're talking about national team. And this is the problem that we have in Trinidad as well, right? In terms of
one of them.
Well, one of many problems. I you know, it was prevalent and existing then, and I think it still exists now, right? In terms of the lack of professionalism and the all right, so I'll get to the story. So I was at the time in Montreal, right? And was it Montreal? Yes, I was at the time in Montreal, right? This was at the very beginning, I believe. Right, at the very beginning of the season, the first season when I won the title, right? And was it that? No, it was not. No. When was it that we had the World Cup qualifying for the World Cup? The World Cup when we went to the World Cup was 2006.
Yeah.
Right, that would have been 2006. So the year before, I don't know if it might have been 2005, right? We were in 2005. We had qualifiers, right?
Yeah.
At the time, I think Bertil Sinclair was the coach.
Okay.
Bertil Sinclair was the coach for sure.
Okay.
But I'm trying to remember the timeline. I can't remember the timeline. But Bertil Sinclair was the coach. This was before Benaka and these guys. He was in charge of the team. And we had a couple qualifiers coming up. And Richard Brackett, I think, was the guy's name, manager's name. Right? I received a phone call from him. Right? He got my number from my dad, and I received a phone call, and he's saying, you know, Bertil, you know, he wants you to come home and, you know, play for Trinidad and stuff. You know, we have a qualifier coming up and that kind of thing. So I was like, well, that's fine. You know, I said, I have a little injury right now, but I'm supposed to be back, you know, soon. Right? So they were like, okay, no problem. We will contact you in the next couple of weeks, right, to see where you're at, you know, because we have a bunch of games coming up, kind of thing, right? So I was like, fine, no problem. So said, so done. He calls me back, right? Probably like a couple of weeks down the road, and he goes, yeah, you know, how's the injury and stuff? And I was like, yeah, I'm good, you know, I'm close to coming back, because I was really close at the time, right? I was close to coming back and stuff, even though I didn't play that year. I was close to coming back at the time but I thought I was close to coming back. And he was like, well, yeah, we want you to come and stuff, you know, get on a flight. I get on a flight and come down, and you prepare and whatnot and whatnot. So I was like, well, listen, I'll get on the flight, I'll come down, but I need some sort of official documentation from the TTFA saying that, this is a call up.
This is a call up to the team, yeah.
I can't just pick up myself and just fly to Trinidad, with nothing saying, hey, I just go to my coach, go to the club and say, hey, I get a national team call up and I'm going home. They would be like, all right, no problem. Where's the documentation? So I tell these guys, listen, I need you guys to send me something official. All right? Richard Bradford goes, okay, no problem. Let me see what I could do. All right? Boom. Fast forward. Quote unquote, the word was Joel Bailey. We tried to call up Joel Bailey to bring him home to play on the national team, and he refused to come home.
Oh my God.
He wants us to fly him home, and he wants us to get on our knees and beg him to come home.
What the hell is this, boy?
Yeah, my people were calling me. My parents was calling me like, yo,
you turned down Trinidad
what going on with you? You think? And I was like, Daddy, I cannot just pick up myself and come to Trinidad just so without anything from the TTFA. So I have a club. I have people paying me. People paying me to play. Yeah. Right? I can't just leave. But what I'm saying is, even my dad, he was still, kind of like, yeah, but still come, and I was like, yo, don't work like that. And like I said, I honestly believe that Richard Bradford and these guys, right? They felt that, they gave me the call, and that was good enough. Yeah. I just needed to drop everything and just come home. But I'm 100% sure that how they dealt with me in that moment, I'm pretty sure they weren't dealing with, the Dwight Yorks or the whoever I was.
You would hope it can be everybody that was doing that too.
Yeah. But then the narrative changed to I didn't want to come home to play.
Yeah. But I don't understand why they would do that. Why they wanna drag man's name in the dig
and again that. Because questions will be asked. People will ask questions. They'll say, well, what happened with Joel? And they had to come up with the answer. What's the answer you'll come up with? We call him but he didn't want to come.
Right.
Yeah. And that was like, for me, I was thinking at that point, well, boy, I blacklist me.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever it is, I probably not going to get on no national team again. Right? So, that was that story there with the national team. But
I swear Julius say something just so no.
Yeah.
I swear Julius James talk about Julius the exact same kind of thing.
They call him and they couldn't. It was a public holiday, so that he couldn't get the flight in time or something.
It's just real weird kind of. And
he spoke to them about their unprofessionalism, and he said blacklist one time.
Yeah. Unprofessional. I seen it up to today. We look at what is happening with us here with Bahamas and Guy Griffith and his son and all these different things. Like it's just like Trinidad. I think that I don't know if you all know about the situation of Guy Griffith and the stuff that he was saying.
We'll say probably no. I don't know.
All right. Well, he wrote something, about his son, and he was, I guess he was supporting the team, right? In terms of, obviously the team didn't have resources.
You notice none of these men talking about the general public, huh? Message.
Andre, I definitely wasn't on Mark's side talking about the public itself.
Message.
Yeah. But Joel, so you're talking about Gary and his impact on.
What's the story?
He was he was supporting the team. He's involved because the team obviously we lacking resources. We're in a really really difficult place right now. Trinidad football.
Yeah.
Right? So, Gary Griffith, he offered his support in different areas, right? To the point where he was very, very, very involved. Even it was almost like he was considered part of the staff, which is unheard of, right? I think as a result, his son, was granted, his son kind of came out of nowhere, and he's on a not on a youth national team, full national team.
Yeah.
Right? Again, like I don't want to really attack. I don't want to seem like attacking Gary Griffith and his son, but for me personally, I think that whole scenario with Gary Griffith, his son, the little falling out they had with the goalkeeper coach Jack, that is a reflection of our society in general. Right? A lot of people, it's a microcosm of what our society in Trinidad and Tobago is. People, getting through based on who your daddy is, who
nepotism,
and all this stuff. Because Gary Griffith's son, at the end of the day, what I've heard, it's alleged, right? He was a player, with St. Mary's, right? And St. Mary's got relegated in the secondary schools league, and he was not even a starter, right? So he can't even start for his secondary schools team, but yet still he's getting an opportunity to be in the national team, right? The opportunity that I know for a fact there are tons. If you want to give a young player, right, that opportunity to say, well, all right, you're giving him, you want to open his eyes, you want to develop him, you want him to see and try to see how you can develop a young player, give him that opportunity. I'm telling you, there are other players are probably more deserving.
Yeah, sure.
Right? But again, he got the opportunity based on his father's influence. They could try to spin it however they want. Gary Griffith tried to spin it in terms of saying, he was always involved in Trinidad football, how much years and whatnot. But you have to ask yourself this question. You were involved in football, no problem, yes? But were you this involved? Were you this involved in football over the years? No. His father definitely had an influence, and that influence is what had his son in the position now. At the end of the day, it's not the son's fault.
No.
You get an opportunity.
Yeah.
You get an opportunity.
Yeah.
You understand? You have to make the best of that. Nothing is wrong with that. All right? You get the opportunity, you try to make the best. So there's nothing on the son's part, right? But again, at the same time, and with Gary Griffith, all right, you try to organize for your son to get an opportunity, no problem. But to operate like you're a victim, because you are not a victim.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? And that for me, right? That kind of sums up our society, people getting opportunities and, getting through because your daddy is this person. You understand? Yeah. So.
And that same sort of, I guess, because a part of that is very unprofessional, obviously. And that's the same kind of thing that you're kind of talking about there with your story with, a man think making a phone call suffices for you.
Come true now, boy.
Walking out on your job.
Correct.
One boy, come true.
Correct.
Let's walk out on your job. Take a plane.
Yeah.
Even though you're injured. Yeah.
And I was under pressure. I'll be honest. People were saying, boy, on to you, boy, ting, and I was like, yo. I alone crazy then. I alone crazy.
And I just imagining the other side too, right? Imagine how Montreal will feel. They sticking with you through your injury for a year, And then
Correct.
here you just bounce out with no official documents, huh? You just say,
but I never, but I never approached them.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I never approached the club. I never approached the club based on that phone call.
Yeah.
So nothing ever really came out of that in terms of,
Yeah.
I never approached the club. I was waiting for the documentation before I approached the club.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So then how did you get back in the good books and get called up in 2007? How did that happen?
That by itself is another story. So, all right. So, I had a fast. So basically, what ended up happening is after my contract was up, I had a little bit of a falling out with the club, with the coach, and that stuff in Montreal, and I had to move on from there, right? So I went to Vancouver because
Rivals.
it so works. It happens like this. The teams that you actually play well against, they're the ones that are interested in you.
For sure.
Right? And every time we played against Vancouver, I always left a mark, to be honest with you.
Right.
I always left a mark. So as soon as I became available, they were like, hey. So they kind of, signed me to a contract. Right? And at the time, what ended up happening is they didn't sign me to the contract. They offered me a contract. So I had the offer sheet and everything. And I said, I was out of contract at the time. So I said, I was going to come home. So I came home. Right? I came home. That would have been in January of 2007. So I had the contract, Vancouver's contract, and I told them, I had to make a decision on it and that kind of stuff. So I came home. And when I came home, Anton Cornell, him and my dad, had some conversations and stuff, and my dad kind of made him know that I was at home. So he was like, oh, he's at home. And at the time they were doing like these little screening sessions for the Digicel Caribbean Cup that was coming up in that year. So they were screening all the local professional players at the time. And at the time it was Wim Reisenberger was the coach at the time. So they were looking at players and stuff. So Anton was like, let Joel come to the screening. So I went to the screening and stuff, and basically, long story short, I ended up in the squad, right? And we had a pretty good competition. We had a young team, right? That year we lost to Haiti in the final, right? But we had a pretty good competition. We had people like Gary Glasgow and Cohen Gemot and these guys who were on the team at the time. Yeah. Right? It was right after the World Cup. So if you ask me, it wasn't really like a strong, like our best team. It wasn't our best squad, but they had all the players like second tier, you could see. Second tier players basically, playing in that tournament, and I was in the squad. But again, I had a couple niggling injuries, even in the screening sessions. Right, I trained one day. Right, I was injured. I picked up an injury, and I was out, but they still picked me in the squad. So started off there really and truly playing. We played Barbados. I came off the bench, I believe it was. Was it that? No, it wasn't Barbados. Martinique. So we played the Barbados game. I didn't play in that game at all. I was on the bench. And then we played Martinique. And I have one regret, because that was my debut. Right? That was my debut game. I came on, and I think it was like my second touch. I got one, picked up one in the box, and I won us a penalty. But we were already winning the game. We were winning the game, I think, 2-1 or something, or 3-1. 3-1, I believe, or something like that. And I won us a penalty, and I was thinking to myself, Joel, you had to take this ball and go and kick this penalty off.
Right.
You understand? But for whatever reason, Kerry Baptiste picks up the ball. He walks to the spot, scores the penalty, and I'm just looking at this guy like this. I'm saying to myself, Joel, you really didn't say nothing to this man, but you really didn't say, oh, let me get this, nothing. You just let him pick up that ball and go and kick that penalty, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, at the time I was thinking, oh, I'll get another opportunity. Another opportunity to score. Never came. It never came. And that's the one regret I had, you know, in the national colors, that I wasn't a little bit more, you know, forward in say, I win this penalty, it's my debut.
Yeah.
Let me have the opportunity to score on my debut.
Yeah.
You know?
So
I played in a couple other games. I played in the final. And then we went on a little tour after that. We went to Panama and Costa Rica. I played in the Panama game and picked up an injury again, and I didn't play in the Costa Rica game. And after that, I went to Vancouver. And decided to sign the contract. Injured.
Blood.
Yeah, I went there injured. I signed the contract and everything, but I was ready. I was ready by the time the beginning of the season. Even though I was injured going there, when I signed the contract, I was ready by the time the season started. Right, and then basically what ended up happening is I ended up picking up a back injury in Vancouver. Right, got traded from Vancouver to a team in North Carolina. Right, and then that's when everything just basically unraveled. I did a back surgery in North Carolina, and that was it for me. You know, I moved back to Trinidad. I got married, had a couple of kids, and then I started up the academy, and that was it.
Right.
Yeah, so it was a long journey, but like as I said, you know, I had a lot of experiences that kind of, you know, I understand now that my career was never really about me. I'm convinced that it wasn't about me, because, you know, some of the things that I learned, some of the things that I picked up, I know that I will be able to pass that information on and pass that information down. And I think that's a problem in Trinidad that we have, you know. We have a lot of people who one out of two things. They have the knowledge. People that have the knowledge, right, they're not able to pass on that knowledge in terms of teaching. Either they're not good teachers, or they're just not bothered to be involved to pass that information on to younger players or younger people. Right? And then you have right now a lot of people involved in football who are, you know, volunteers, basically. People with, you know, they have the right, what's the word I'm looking for?
Attitude.
They have in terms of they have the right intentions, I should say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? So they get involved in the game, you know, because there's nobody else, really and truly. You know, they don't really have the knowledge, if you understand what I'm saying. They try their best with what they have, but they don't have the knowledge to really pass on. Right? So what you find is a lot of kids being, you know, taught the wrong things, being brought up on the wrong things, and that within itself is a problem with our development of players and that kind of stuff. So it's up to people like me, because I consider myself to be a smart guy, All right, I'm not. I think I'm able to. I'm able to pass on information. I think I'm a pretty decent teacher, you know.
Yeah.
So, and I think with the experiences that I've had, you know, I have a lot to offer. A lot to offer. So, I would have fallen into that same trap of, you know, being someone with, you know, all this experience and stuff, and you're just not giving back. You're just there in the background, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's it. That's basically how it went. The back injury was the end of my playing days.
Right.
I'm now fully into coaching and passing on, you know, all this stuff that I've learned and trying to guide, you know, my kids and, you know, as a result, other kids, you know, in the right way, give them the proper advice, you know, and stuff, because, you know, a couple of players that I won't call their names right now, that, you know, I've spoken to, right, players who, you know, playing overseas and that kind of stuff, and, you know, simple things like networking and stuff. Like for me, I didn't do a good job of that, you know, as a player. You know, you end up at these clubs, right? And you don't think about these things. You just think about, you know, well, you're playing football, but you don't think about, you know, making sure that you build your network in terms of, you know, you will have access to certain people,
for sure,
powerful people who can open doors for you. You know, when let's say when your career is over, you know, you know, I've come across owners, very powerful people, right? That, you know, you see them and you say, how you going to enjoy things? Nah, but you just going about your business. You on football. You're just thinking about playing football. But, you know, sometimes, you know, players have to think about, you know, life after football, right? And sometimes, you know, you have your career, yes, you're playing, you focus on your football, but at the same time, you know, if you build a proper network, when it's all said and done, you know, these are the people who can open doors for you. They could give you a job within the same club. You know, I used to look at players and kind of frown on them, like, you know, hey, you're trying to be a teacher's pet kind of thing, you know, you're sucking up to the coach, you're sucking up to the ownership, and, you know, you know, you frowning on that, but at the end of the day, it's these same people, when their career is over, they get into work in the front office at the club, they get a coaching job, you know, them is the next head coach, them is the next marketing manager, them is the next director of football. So, you know, so they would have networked in such a way that, you know, after football, they are taking these people will be willing to take care of them.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
That's a great point. Because you always often watch coaches and wonder, how you get that job, boy? And that thing is that is networking maybe a major part of it.
It is. Once you know the right people, you know, they have a fondness for you.
Make me think
they will keep you around. They will keep you around.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, sorry, go ahead, Lucy.
Now go ahead, Andre.
Well, I was gonna ask one more, like football. So looking back, so it sounds like maybe your biggest regret is the not taking the goal, not taking the penalty. I mean, looking back on your career, I mean, your career was pretty big, nonetheless, right? So you get to do MLS. What's that? The two coast, that's East Coast, West Coast of Canada, right? I think Vancouver.
Well, at the time, these clubs right now, they are MLS clubs. They are MLS clubs. But at the time, it was the A-league at the time. They were playing
A-league. Okay.
They were the A-league. So
both of them?
Both of them.
Okay. And then you had the experience in the indoor soccer league.
Correct.
What would be what would be the thing you look back on with the most pride and thing? Like, what was your happiest, your best moment in your career, you think?
Well, I mean, I think I would have to say my best moments would have been, during my college days. I think I was really, really at a point where, everything just came really easy, and I was having, a significant amount of success.
Yeah.
So, if I was to really look back, right, I would say like during that period, I think I was having like my best moments as a player,
I was enjoying the football and thing too.
I was enjoying it, I was having a certain amount of success. Like I said, everything just came easily, like naturally easy, Didn't have to fight up really. Besides, let's say, other than my freshman year, I never really, everything just came really, really easy for me.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was able to do a lot of things, in college, like some of the all-time, being someone who ended up, in an all-time NCAA record book. That is, that's something that at the end of the day, I could show these things to my kids. These are things that can't be taken away from me.
Yeah.
No matter how someone might want to judge me in terms of my career and that kind of stuff, I think I have achieved a couple things in college that, it's not easy. It's not easy to achieve, and I'm proud.
Sure.
I'm proud of it.
I'm
proud of it. So,
for sure. I remember, so back in the day, I'd written something about people as if somebody, somebody didn't meet the potential that they thought they should have meet and thing, right? And I just thought about how crazy it is to say that. Imagine you saying somebody from Sour, right, or somebody from Point, or somebody from Library, whatever. Somebody from Library is right now in a record book in the US all time. And you had the audacity to say this person didn't do XYZ? Are you serious? Look how much people just play football in Trinidad alone. Much less how much people just play football in other countries around the world that are trying to go in the same schools that are competing for these same records.
Correct.
So when you start doing the maths on the, and we'll say you're a maths man, right? when you start doing the maths on it, what is the probability of somebody from a country of 1.5 million population going and reaching that level? So it's just that's I mean
2%.
You just do the maths, so but it's like this is why we had the podcast. Because to be honest, a lot of times people think as if, there's a very narrow definition of what it means to be successful. That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
When in reality, the amount of people that cannot even claim your level of success.
For sure.
No, I had before I don't know if you were trying to wrap up here, but I had to pick up, my brother, my older brother Marcus. I know he was on the podcast, before.
For sure.
And I didn't really mention him, in our conversation here that much, but to be honest with you, he was always the standard that I actually was always trying to. So like as a young boy, for example, even though I'm a couple of years younger than him, right? He was always the guy that I was trying to outdo, and he was a good player. He was a pretty good player as a youth man. He was a good player. And, I always wanted to outdo him. always wanted to outdo him. It was always that kind of, I don't know if you were call it sibling rivalry, they call it.
Yeah.
You know, I always wanted to outdo him. So, even when I speak about, hitting balls off the wall and, working on my touch and things, he was the motivation. He was really and truly, the standard that I was trying to reach and trying to surpass.
Mm-hmm.
He might not know, right? He might not know, but he was always that standard. And, even though as a young player, I never really, probably was able to be better than him, as a young player, that helped me because, like I said, he's older than me. So just me being close to him in terms of level, that helped me when it's time for me to come down and play against my own peers.
Right.
Yeah, because my level, my standard was always a little bit higher. So, even him, he played a significant role in my development. And people like him wouldn't know. They wouldn't even know. He's just going about his business, thinking that, he's just trying to be a footballer, not knowing the impact or the influence that he might be having on somebody else.
Right.
So I just wanted to make reference to that because I think people like him are important as well. People like him are important. People like him who, help you to actually push yourself and always try to become better. He was one of those elements within that kind of helped me push to be better than what I was.
For sure.
But that's really great, man, because what we're trying to do is the same kind of something, what you just said on a macro level.
Mm-hmm.
Basically give everybody the flowers, right?
Yeah.
So you're telling everybody, you tell your story, tell his story, and you now tell him in a personal way, understand? That he was the benchmark. Understand?
Yeah.
So that's good. That's great. I think this was an awesome episode. We went around the world and come back.
Yeah.
Joel, boy, you really appreciate you taking this time to come on.
It was fun, man. It was fun. I appreciate all the fellas, having me on, man.
Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. So before we leave, everybody who know Joel, Andrew, or myself, drop a like, comment, share the video so everybody could hear his story. Some youth man could benefit. Work on your touches against the wall, and even though you're home in the pandemic. You understand? If you're wiry and you find getting a little old, you can get home weights and do your work in the gym. You understand? Get stronger. You understand?
Take care of your body.
Take care of your body. If you have niggling injuries, take care of your body. Go and sleep at 10 o'clock, not at 1 in the morning playing games. Right?
Exactly.
Wake up and go again. Right? So hopefully this benefits somebody. It definitely benefited myself, and I'm sure it benefited Andre.
For sure.
So one of the better podcasts we did, and we appreciate it, Joel. Everybody like, share, subscribe, and thanks for viewing. The 54 subscribers.
Look, we have 54 hardcore fans, They don't miss a beat. They don't miss a click.
I think that might be 55.
All right, there we go.
Appreciate that, bro.
Appreciate it.
You watching the time. Thanks again, bro, for taking the time out to be with us tonight.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right.
Good luck in the future. Good luck with everything.
You too, bro. Bro. Hopefully we can come out of this pandemic safely, and we could the academy could spark it up again.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man. Thanks, guys.
All right, later, fellas. Bye.